Hey, Sophia.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we didn't actually talk that much when we used to work together, but you were so amazing and you actually showed up to one of my work events. And I was just like so blown away. You happened to share with me that night about your fiance, which I didn't know anything about your personal story, but you told me that your fiance Chris had passed.
Yes.
And so you guys, the love of your life, didn't, so many things, so many dreams that, didn't happen. And I think the thing that struck me about your story is you were telling me about how he was really your soulmate.
Yes, he was. He really was.
That, to me, when you were telling me the love that you had, it was such a special story. So, I want us to share today what that's like. Tell me about what was it like the first time that you met him?
Oh my God. Well, I have to say, we found each other at a very young age, I would say, at the age of 17 years old. We met working together at a pizzeria. And I remember that day like it was yesterday because I saw him. And he was at the front register and he was a delivery boy. And I met everybody but him, right? And as I walked up to him, I said, "Hi, I'm Sophia. Are you new here? Because I haven't seen him with anywhere else." And he was like, "Yeah, kinda." And he was very nervous when he first saw me. And one of our workers was like, "What are you talking about? You've been here for like months now." And he just wasn't really talking very much. He was just I could tell, very nervous, very shy. And but from what I heard from his perspective, he experienced love at first sight. Aww. As soon as I walked into the restaurant. And I have to say I did too. I was just as nervous as he was. In all honesty, I mean, this is something that we can only experience, what I thought was in movies, right? And meeting Chris, it just felt like a puzzle piece clicked. Like we just connected with each other so much, and we really knew we found each other at such a young age was a gift in itself, right? So, and we were just inseparable ever since. We were very much inseparable, and we were one, basically. We were one with each other, and it was just a very beautiful relationship. And I think of it now, and I can't even imagine how life would have been like without him. And it was just amazing. So.
I've heard some people talk about when you meet this person that's like, your soulmate. It's not this like firework chemistry. It's more of like your soul feels calm.
It does, exactly.
Can you describe that?
Yeah, I mean, when I met him, it just felt like, we knew each other already, in a way. It didn't feel like we had to kind of discover who we were all over again, from scratch. It just almost felt like I already knew this person. And I did feel a sense of peace when I met him. I don't understand the fireworks part. People say there's fireworks, there's sparks, there's all of that. With him, I just felt calm. My soul felt calm, and it felt like I was at peace, like a sort of peace that I have never experienced in my life. It was almost like I was meditating 24/7 with him, but I really wasn't. It's his presence alone that allowed me to feel so calm around him. That's how it felt.
That's amazing. What was it like? Because you've spoken to me about how Chris gave you unconditional love.
Yes.
And what did that feel like?
This was something that it was almost like a gift that he's given me. I mean, the unconditional love, the passion behind it, the humbleness behind it, the patience. It was something that at 17, how do you know about any of this stuff? It's insane to feel like this all comes naturally to us. When really at 17, you're just discovering who you are. You don't even know who you are at that age, right? And for us, it just felt like we've already knew how to love each other. And he taught me in a way how to love myself. So it was such an unconditional and patient love, and it wasn't selfish. It was very selfless. And I have to say that he was somebody that I just would joke around and say that he wasn't from this planet sometimes. I would just say that he was just a different person, and he wasn't from here. He was from some other planet in the universe, but it was just because he completed me so much. I just couldn't believe I've met somebody like that.
So on the day to day, what was your relationship like? Like, were you guys like, you would like joke around, or was it just like passionate, or like were you guys friends, partners in crime?
I love this question because, you know, he was such a goofy guy. He was such a goofy guy, and he made me laugh so much. But we were kind of like two peas in a pod. We were each other's partners in crime in a way. I mean, for us, we were a team, you know. It never felt like we had to compete against each other. We were very supportive of each other, and oh my God, we were each other's cheerleaders, if anything. He had always so many new hobbies, new ideas that he had, and I constantly supported him with every new hobby. He would do skateboarding, and then he got into the hobby of making keycaps. So he started a keycap business, and I pushed him really hard onto doing that. So that was something that, you know, he was very passionate about, and he was very crafty and hands-on, and he amazed me because every new hobby he took on, he excelled at it. It was insane. It was like, in a way, it just, he really put me in awe in a way, because I just couldn't believe that somebody who was this crafty and was like, and also very timid, he was a very timid person, could excel at so many new things. He excelled at art, he excelled at music if he wanted to. He was a DJ at some point too, and he was great at that. But he was humble. He didn't shove it in anybody's face that he was good at these things. If anything, he was a learner. He loved to learn. And he really he was very curious all the time. So he was always asking questions, and he always looked at opportunities to build his tool set and to expand on his community. And he was just, it really, for me, it inspired me, if anything. I have my own passions as well, and he would push me to do the same. And, you know, I have a passion with singing, and I've always, you know, and I would go to LA back and forth to do performances. And there were moments where, you know, I would kind of feel a little bit discouraged with myself, and he was there to really push me and continue singing, even when I had a fear sometimes of singing. It was like my biggest cheerleader. And after he passed, I stopped singing. I stopped singing for about like 2 years. I stopped singing, and it was almost like I didn't have that cheerleader anymore. So it was a very hard time for me in that point of my life. But now I am getting back. Slowly, I'm getting back to it.
Yeah. So you actually did something that was really incredible. So you and Chris had this dream that you were thinking about moving to Japan after you got married and living there. And yes. I think it was like maybe like 5 years?
It was 3 years actually.
Okay,
yeah,
3 years. 3 years after he passed, you made a little pilgrimage over to Japan by yourself.
Yes.
You didn't have anything really planned. A lot of it was just like happening as it happened, and you had a lot of magical experiences that happened, right? And tell us about what you were doing over there, because you were doing something special as well.
Oh my God. So yeah, let me start with this whole idea, right? I mean, it was Chris's dream to visit Japan. We decided that we were going to go on a trip together, and when we go there, if we loved it, we were going to move there. And I remember that day when he first asked me. We were watching a movie one day, and he was telling me, hey, I know we said we wanted to go just to visit, but what if we moved there? What do you think about that? And I was working a corporate job at the time, and I said, yeah. I said, why not? And he goes, really? Well, what about your job? And I said, I'll quit my job. I don't care. I'll quit my job. I'll become an English teacher. We'll make it work. We'll live in the countryside. We'll have a quiet life there. If that's your passion, I think I could see us doing that too. And he was so excited. And that was going to be announced to our family and friends after we visited, and we decided we really loved it and we wanted to live there. And we really made this a plan, right? And from what I found out through his family and through his friends, that he was actually going to propose to me there. Aww. He was going to propose to me in Japan. We unfortunately didn't make it to Japan, which is why I made the trip to go by myself. And that was also like a very big healing journey. So my whole purpose about going was to really fulfill this dream of his. It really was to fulfill this dream of his. And by doing that, I decided to ask his family to please set aside a small amount of ashes for me, so that I can spread his ashes everywhere, all across Japan, not even in just one area of Japan, just all across Japan. And this way, he had his dream fulfilled of living there, of his body being there. So I didn't have any plan. You're right. I had no itinerary, no plan. In a way, I kind of asked him to guide me. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know where to start.
So you said like a prayer to him.
I did. I said like a prayer to him, and I asked him to please guide me, to please give me strength, because I was going by myself with this, right? And yeah, just to really guide me through this all, because I really didn't know where to start and where to go, and I didn't have him with me. So for me, it was an emotional journey, and he did. I truly believed he did guide me everywhere, as not once did I feel like I was lost during this trip at all. I could feel his presence wherever I went. And one of the very first places I buried his ashes, was at a park in Tokyo. And it was actually, it was around cherry blossom season too. So I was a little nervous because it was very busy around this time. And there's a lot of people there. And of course, there's like a pond, and you could take a boat ride out on the pond. And I was looking everywhere. To find like a really quiet spot. And I was getting kind of discouraged at one point. And then all of a sudden, as I'm like walking, as I was getting just discouraged, I kept hearing in my head, keep going, keep going. And I said, all right. And I was getting tired at this point. And I heard, keep going. So I kept going. And I see this clearing, this really quiet clearing with one single cherry blossom down in the middle of the clearing.
Aww.
And a bench right next to it. And I was like, wow, this is perfect. So I had a journal with me. I decided to sit down before I buried him, and I journaled, and I wrote about how my experience, my feelings toward it. And then I decided to finally bury a small vial of his ashes right behind the tree. And I did it very discreetly too. So I didn't want to disturb anyone, but I did it very discreetly. I had it in a tiny little vial. I dug a tiny small hole and I just put a small amount of his ashes in there, and I made a tiny little shrine. Like I put rocks and a stick over there so I knew where he was. And what I did with every location that I buried him is that marked it on a map. So this was the whole point too for me to do, is that I marked everywhere he went, and I will gift this to his family as a gift. So I will make a physical map and a digital map, and I will gift it to his family for Christmas so that they can one day go to Japan and visit where he was laid. And another thing, sorry, I did see a sign from this event that I knew this was a good spot, because as soon as I left, I saw a cafe called the Bunny Rabbit Cafe. Now, here's some context behind why this is a sign, right? My nickname for him was Bunny. So that was my nickname for him. And it was because he had this cute little nervous tick with his nose. So his nose twitched a lot because he had a nervous tick, but it reminded me of a bunny rabbit. And it was my favorite thing in the world of his. And the name Bunny just stuck with him. And he loved that nickname so much that he made it his logo for his keycap business, was a rabbit. So when I saw passing by this cafe, as I left this first area where I buried him, I saw the Bunny Rabbit Cafe. And that was a huge sign in itself that was the perfect first spot for me to bury him.
Oh, that's so amazing. Mm-hmm. I also remember you were telling me a story that something really magical happened around Mount Fuji.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. Oh, I did. There was actually a time in Mount Fuji that something really nice happened. So I went around the Hakone Mount Fuji area, and I found a lake. It was one of the 5 lakes of Mount Fuji that I saw there. And I was on a tour, and I decided to kind of like separate myself from this tour and go near the lake, because everybody was all taking pictures, but I decided to go near the lake. And I heard from his family that he was going to propose to me near Mount Fuji. Like that was one of his locations that he wanted to, that was one of the locations that he was going to propose. And as I spread him in one of the lakes, I saw a couple a woman getting proposed to in that very moment as I spread him. And I haven't cried in any of the places that I spread him. That was the one spot that I broke down, because I knew that he was there with me too. And that was another sign for me that, wow, so this would have been maybe one of the spots where you would have spread me, especially with where the lake was. There was the view of the mountain right in front of the lake. Like you were right at the bottom of the mountain. It was gorgeous. And a woman was standing right there, and her fiancé was on one knee proposing to her right in front of the mountain. It was beautiful.
Did it feel like a romantic moment that he had planned for you, maybe?
In a way, it was almost like I was seeing it through his eyes, what would have been for me, for us. If he was still there, this would have been a plan for him to propose to me in that location. It was almost like very specific too. Like, this is the specific location I would have proposed to you right here in this moment. Here's a couple right here just to give you an idea. Like, this is what would have happened too. So
that's so romantic. Yeah, and then there was, I mean, I thought it was really sweet. You were telling me about how there was like this elderly couple that was part of this Airbnb that they had out in the countryside, and how it was like kind of like they adopted you. Like, they were grandma and grandpa, and they would like walk you to the bus every day and really make sure that you were taken care of.
Oh my goodness. And so I called them Mama and Papa San. And they didn't want me to call them Hanabusa-san. That was their last name, but they wanted me to call them Mama and Papa. And which is funny because I called my grandparents Mama and Papa as well, on my mother's side. And they were such a loving couple. And they were together for over 45 years. They were together.
And when they were loving to each other, like, describe, what did that look like?
That love was almost like still there even after 45 years. I saw how affectionate they were towards each other. The wife would make me breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. And the husband was always helping the wife, cleaning up right afterwards. Like, she would cook, he would do the dishes. And they would both set me up in my own bedroom. They both came in, almost like said goodnight to me, brought me my fresh linen, brought me my fresh towels every time. And I just saw the way they supported each other. They were like a team. And I saw in itself like another form of what love was, except like 45 years later. It was amazing to see that perspective, right? And you see people when they're newly in a relationship, but nobody really talks about the relationships years later. Yeah. What does that look like after so many years? How do you maintain that love and that passion? And they were prime examples of how they were maintaining that love and that passion with each other. It was like that love didn't die. And what they showed is that they were a partnership. They were really a partnership with each other. Even with their guests, they continued to support each other. I didn't see them being separate at all. At one point, they were constantly with each other, always helping each other out. And it was just beautiful. And I felt like a baby. I really felt like a baby there. I was treated with so much love, and I felt their love too. Because they loved each other so much, they shared some of their love with me, which was magical, because this trip alone, I feel like I've experienced love all over again in many different ways. It didn't have to be through a partner, but if it was through them, through other friends I met along the way, more family members more relationships I've developed on the way, and it was through other people, not necessarily romantically, right?
Yeah, I experienced love like that all around me. I don't have a romantic partner right now, but sometimes I feel like you're saying, it's like through my friends, family, even strangers. There's so much love that can happen, and I feel like it happens when you're really present in the moment.
Right.
And you can like share a moment, genuinely like laugh or like really connect, or just acknowledge that somebody is, they're special, like acknowledge their soul, right?
Absolutely. And that's the thing. I mean, when you're with those types of people, you don't have to put on a certain act or have to, be a certain way or certain character in front of them. You are just yourself in that moment. And even with the, Mama and Papa, I barely knew them. And with them, I felt a sense of calm and peace again. It was that sense of peace I was feeling one more time that I haven't felt in since Chris. And I felt it in another true form of love was through them, like being taken care of by this Japanese old couple. And that was, honestly, it was almost like a revelation for me, because I was like, wow, I haven't felt this since I met him. And now I'm feeling this again.
Yeah.
And maybe this whole journey was not only to fulfill Chris's true dream, but it was for me to feel that love one more time.
Yeah.
Through many different forms of relationship.
Yeah. And it was so brave of you that you went and traveled all the way to Japan by yourself.
Oh, my mother was fearless. Like, she was so scared. She was so scared, my mother. my mother, my friends. But you know what? I was very blessed. So the last 2 weeks of my trip, my cousin came to visit me and my brother. So my very last 2 weeks, I wasn't by myself, but the first few weeks I was alone, and it was much needed. I would have to say it was very much needed. Yes.
So I love when you were talking about, you and Chris's relationship, and then also this very sweet Japanese couple that you got to witness their love. And I think that when we're in relationships and, we're really busy and we're working, sometimes we forget like what a gift it is to be able to love. And I'm guessing that you probably saw things where it was like, they felt like it was an honor to care for each other, right? Like if maybe they were like bringing each other some tea, or did Chris do things like that for you? Did you experience that sort of thing with your love?
Oh my God. I mean, it's amazing because his bare minimum for him was to move mountains. That was his bare minimum. And he didn't do anything less than that, right? And for him, it was a privilege to support me and to serve me. And it was a privilege for me to support him. What an honor it was to be able to be a part of his life and to be a part of his journey, to support him and serve him and to love him unconditionally. And it was never one-sided. It was always equaled with each other. And, it's just, we just never had any type of like competitiveness with each other or anything like that. It was truly like we would, let's say, like if he went to my performances, right, for when I was singing, or if I had a project to do because we went to college together, and he sometimes, if I was very, very stressed out and I would freeze with my deadline of doing a project, he would start writing my papers for me immediately. That was his act of love. So he would immediately start it for me, and then I would go ahead and finish the whole rest of the paper. It little things, even like him just being able to like wipe the snow off my car in the morning, or sometimes he would put my shoes on for me. But very much he saw me as like a baby, I would say. So he always felt like he needed to do everything for me, really everything. I'm a very hyper independent person, but it was with him. I wasn't allowed. And I felt like my whole life, I've always been super hyper independent until I met Chris, really. And it was almost like he came in and he goes, no more of that. I'm going to take care of you now. It's my turn now. You've taken care of everybody but yourself. And now it's my turn to take care of you. Let somebody take care of you now. And vice versa. He felt like he always took care of everyone but himself. I came in and I filled in that role for him as well. So we found each other in a way. And the most, like, I would say the toughest of times that we were in our lives where we felt a little bit lost at 17 years old, we found each other. It was fate in a way. It really was. And I wouldn't have changed it. I wouldn't have changed it any other way, to be honest. It was a beautiful, the way we met was beautiful.
After experiencing this unconditional love from Chris, how did that change the way that you went about on a healing journey and life without him?
Well, I'll be honest with you, it was very tough in the beginning to learn how to heal. The first year or two, I didn't love myself as much. And I found ways to continue to hurt myself, emotionally, physically, mentally, whatever that was.
When you say that you didn't love yourself, do you mean like that you weren't taking care of yourself, or like what did you mean by that?
Yeah, so it definitely meant like I wasn't taking care of myself, and I didn't realize that how like heavily, I guess, dependent I was on him in that sense. But in a way, when I did meet him, he did teach me how to love myself. But when I experienced that loss, that grief of losing him, I forgot how to do that all over again. I really did. In the first year or two, that's how I felt. It was a very difficult time for me. But then on the third year of me going through this grief, I learned how to love myself again. I did.
Do you remember the first day where like maybe things changed and you did a little bit more for yourself than you usually did?
I did. I had a moment where I used to go to sleep, and the first 2 years I would go to sleep at like 5 or 6 in the morning every day. That I just had a horrible sleeping pattern my first couple years. And then one day I knew that this was affecting my body physically and myself mentally. And I decided to even just as small as going to sleep or a little earlier today. I don't know what it was, but that was like one of my biggest turning points, was being able to sleep at a reasonable time, like 11 o'clock, and not 6 in the morning like I usually do. And also getting a therapist, where I kind of had to maybe pull myself out of this hole and decided to receive help. I did have a dream about him actually around this time. And I was like I found myself in like a meadow. It was weird, right? But it was where he was buried, where his ashes were buried. And because he has like a bird bath fountain, and then there's like a beautiful tree that's like over his bird bath. This is exactly where he was buried. But in my dream, I saw this. And I see him sitting right beside the bird bath where he was. And I went up to him and I said, I'm not taking care of myself anymore. And he goes, I know you're not. And I said, you know why, right? And he goes, yes, I do. But that hurts me, what you're doing. And he said to me, you have to keep going. You cannot continue to live like this. You have to keep going. If not for you, then for me. And in that moment, I woke up like drenched in sweat. I remember drenched in sweat, like in cold sweats. And I was like, wow. And I knew I had to pull myself out of this. I had to do this not for myself, for him, for my family, for my friends. I needed to get myself out of this. And in a way, it wasn't that just because I lost him, it necessarily means that he's gone physically, but I can continue to honor his memory, by just talking about him, like today, or talking to his friends about him, or talking to my friends or other colleagues and people that I feel like his story could impact other people's lives, and honoring him in other ways by doing his favorite things. I recently, our 10-year anniversary would have passed, and I went skateboarding for the first time in months with a couple of my friends. And that to me was a way of honoring him in a way, because skateboarding was his favorite thing. He loved skateboarding. And he was the one who taught me how to skateboard. So finally I went skateboarding after months and months of not doing it. And I felt him there. I felt his presence there. And whenever I do things to honor his memory, whether it's talking about him doing things that were his favorites, I feel his presence all over again. And I think that was the key that I was just missing. I was just too deep in my grief to realize that he's constantly with me. Yeah. He was always with me. It's just because I didn't see him physically that it just completely brought me down in my grief. But I just didn't realize that he's always there. I just have to bring him out. Yeah. That's what it was. So,
and all those memories and all that love that you shared, mm-hmm. It's not gone.
It's not. No, it's definitely, it's not gone. And if anything, wow, I didn't even realize it could be stronger. Like the love could become stronger even after death. I didn't even think that was truly possible, but it is. I feel my love for him becoming stronger as the years are passing by. At every time I talk about him, it becomes stronger, right? So it just goes to show that even after death, that unconditional love does truly exist.
So talk to me more about that. You're saying that you feel like you actually, like the love has gotten stronger. Mm-hmm. Do you think before maybe like it hurt to just experience any sort of love, like with anybody, like friend?
I would say it was difficult for me at first to experience love again, and to even share that love with somebody, even with friends, family, because I closed off myself a lot after losing him. And I think that's what made my trip to Japan so special, really, because it taught me how to experience that love again. And whether it didn't even have to be romantic kind of love, it was platonic even, and it was through meeting Mama and Papa at my Kyoto Airbnb, or it was through meeting my teacher in Fukui and meeting his whole family. And it was teaching me how to love myself, but how to also be open to other people giving me that love as well.
Yeah, like they were caring for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And do you feel like now that you've gone a little bit down this like healing journey and you've practiced receiving and giving love again to others, do you feel like you can love more than you could before?
Absolutely. I think now now that I've learned, at least in Japan, I was able to open myself up to accepting love from others. I feel myself now being able to love myself and sharing that love with other people on my own. Because before it was so difficult for me to do that in the initial stages of my grief. I couldn't even love myself or accept love from others. It was impossible. It was nearly impossible for me to do that. Mm-hmm. And now I could see myself sharing that love with other people. And it almost opened up a whole new side of me that I didn't even know existed, that I didn't even know I was capable of, right? Yeah. So in a way, I saw the silver lining behind my grief.
Yeah. So earlier you were talking about when you first met Chris, like the special thing about your relationship initially is he taught you how to love yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And that was kind of a gift for you to learn so early in life. Do you think that now that like you might be able to help others love themselves and like teach them how to love themselves?
I could see, what's funny? I never thought of that, but I could see myself doing that in a way because, everybody goes through a hard point in their life where you feel yourself at a really, really deep point in your life and you cannot fully love yourself, right? And that's human nature. We're going to go through challenges in our lives where it becomes almost nearly impossible to even love yourself. But, sometimes it's just those best practices of realizing that it's okay to have moments of sadness and anger and frustration and to accept that part of yourself first. Then when you accept those parts of yourself is when you can finally open yourself up to greater things that are surrounded around you. Yeah. Right? Which is receiving love from others, giving love to others. But we need to accept first the fact that it's all right to make mistakes. It's all right to feel upset before moving on to that next stage.
I read this book recently. It's by Kristen Neff, and it's called Self-Compassion. And it's really beautiful how she talks about this, about how you need to have a relationship with yourself. And like what you're talking about, like if you're experiencing sadness and anger and like validating yourself and like having a little talk with yourself, being like, hey, like it's okay that you're sad, that you're angry. Like it makes sense that you are, but it's going to be okay.
Exactly.
You're okay. Like, I love you. You can like say it in the mirror, just like, talk to yourself, comfort yourself. And I think that in society, like we always think about it as like, we need somebody else to do that for us, right? Like our family, our friends, our romantic partner. But like we forget that we can also do that for ourselves, which is a really powerful thing, right? Like it's not to say that it's not amazing to have those people around you, but if you can give yourself that extra support, it can go a long way.
It can. And it sometimes I feel like it surprises us too, like what kind of superheroes we are, that we can do that ourselves. We can pull ourselves out of it. Of course, it's advantageous to have the support of your family, your friends, your peers around you to help you bring you out of that. But when you can say that you can pull yourself out of that hole at the end of the day, that you have the power to do that, to love yourself all over again, I mean, what a superpower to say that you can have. It's so difficult to do that in itself, and to say that you can really pull yourself out of that. What an achievement. You should be proud, if anything, because you can look back at those challenges, those times that you were in that hole, and then you look at yourself now, and it's like, it's an empowering story.
Because you know that you can get through anything, right?
Exactly.
Because you got you.
You got you. You got you. And you've built like this extra armor on you, right? And it's just like you could see like these small challenges in life they're minuscule compared to what you went through.
Yeah.
Right?
And also when others are going through hard things around you, like maybe family or friends, if you have this relationship with yourself where you can get yourself through tough things and validate yourself, it makes it so much easier to do that for others, right? Because you're like, oh, I know how to do this. I do this for myself, and it's almost like you can be a better friend.
Yes, exactly. You could become a better friend, a better daughter, a better sister, a better niece, a better partner. And, and I have to say, I was super grateful to have my family and friends with me. I mean, if I didn't have that love and support, I don't know where I would have ended up. But it had to come from me to want to help myself. It had to come deep down from myself to really get myself out of that hole and to really want to be better for everybody. Yeah. Because everybody was there for me, but I wasn't there for them.
Yeah.
And that was a problem. So learning how to love myself again helped me become a better person for the people around me. So that was really what was important, is I wanted to be better for everybody else that were meant to me in my circle. And of course a better human being to others on the street too. Right?
So after going through a couple of really hard years, right, grieving the loss of Chris, what advice do you have to other people that might be going through a similar situation?
I would say be extremely patient to yourself. And most people would think, what about kind? Kind, yes, be kind to yourself, but that's sometimes a little hard to do, right? So I would say be patient. Be patient with yourself. Give yourself time. There is no timeline of when grief stops. Grief sometimes never stops, right? It can become a part of you for your whole life. It's just a matter of being patient with yourself and allowing others to be there for you. Because more than ever, that's when you need the support, is from your family, your friends, your peers. That's when you should be able to rely on your people the most. Because in times like that, in such an isolating moment as that, you need to ask for help. And it's okay to ask for help. And it's okay to feel what you're feeling. You are allowed to be hurt, to be angry, to be upset that you lost your loved one. It's unfair, right? But definitely I would say be patient. Be patient with yourself is my biggest advice.
Do you think that when you were, having a really hard time during those couple of years, and you talk about how it was hard to love yourself and you were pushing people away, was it kind of like, how could you possibly understand what I'm going through?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had many moments like that where, I'll give you an example. I mean, even being at his funeral, there were so many people at his funeral. The whole town showed up. I didn't know who half of these people were, and I can bet money that he didn't either, right? And there were people crying. There were people, just saying what a great guy he was. And I was thinking and telling me that they were sorry. And I'm like, are you sorry? Do you even know what I'm going through right now? Do you even know the depths that I'm feeling? The pain, the profound pain, unbearable, excruciating pain that I'm feeling right now? It almost eats you alive at such a loss like that. With anybody who's gone through grief, whether it's a child, a parent, a brother, right? A soulmate. It becomes an impending doom that surrounds you and follows you wherever you go. And nobody can really understand what you're going through unless they've been through that themselves. It becomes hard. And of course, in that moment when you feel such a strangling emotion, mm-hmm. you can't accept others' help because you're just angry, and you feel anger in the first stages because you think no one can understand what you're going through. And it's true. No one can understand what you're going through in that moment. But what you have to allow is to allow others to support you, even if they don't know.
Do you think that for you going back, that would have been maybe just letting them hug you a little bit longer and maybe feel that love come through?
Yeah, I think just allowing people to talk to me a little bit longer, listening to me a little bit longer, sometimes I don't, and what I didn't expect for people is to save me. I didn't expect anybody to come and save me out of this grief. It was impossible. But maybe what I should have allowed myself more is allowing people to, like you said, hug me longer, allowing people to lend me an ear, to let me talk about him, to let me talk about how angry I was that this happened, and just allowing myself to cry, right? I didn't give myself those moments. I isolated myself, which this is why I give that advice to people, is to give yourself that patience, that time.
Do you think that it had anything to do with you were mad that they weren't Chris?
You know what? That's a good point. Yeah. I was angry that it wasn't Chris that was there to support me and to love me, because everybody has an understanding of me, but different versions of understanding of who I am, right? I have different relationships with my mother, my father, my sibling, my best friends, and I all have unique relationships with them. The most unique I definitely had was with Chris, and that's because he saw me through every single version of myself. He saw versions of me that I never even knew existed, that only came out around him. So, of course, I felt very isolated when I found even more uglier versions of myself that I didn't even know existed after his death. So, the first person that I would thought of in those moments was to have him, to turn to him, right?
I understand that you are open to love again, right?
I am. I definitely am open to love again. But because I've experienced such a profound love,
the bar is high.
The bar is high.
Is that the ceiling?
It's to the moon right now. Because like I said, his bare minimum was to move mountains. That was his version of bare minimum. And I don't think I can settle for anything less than that, right? And they say, hey, ladies, they say, if he wanted to, he would. And he would. So I am open to it. I'm open to it. But naturally, right? I don't think I would look for it. But if it comes my way, then I'm open to receiving it once more.
That's beautiful. I almost wonder if, the silver lining in this, like if there can be any, is you were talking about like when there were parts of yourself that started to come out that you never had met before, right? Mm-hmm. And Chris, around Chris, like you discover parts of yourself that you had never seen. With Chris passing, is like there were these other parts that were illuminated about you, right? And it's kind of like Chris did that again.
All over again.
Yeah. And there's probably like there's value in those parts, right?
Mm-hmm. There is, because not only was he showing that while he was alive, he showed it again after death, that new versions of me that exist, right? Because of him. It was all through him. And he showed, there was one thing he always told me even while he was around, was how strong I was. And yet again, he showed that to me, even after his death. Look how strong you are.
Oh my God. We would have rather skipped it, but
we would have rather skipped that part, but he did.
Yeah.
He showed it to me many times, and he showed it to me again afterwards. So that I'm grateful for.
Yeah, you truly can do anything.
And you know what? I have to say I'm proud of myself.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm proud to know you, and
Thank you.
I'm so thankful, and I feel so blessed that like you came that one night, and I think you said that was like the first time that you had shared that story. And
I did.
And like when you told me that story, first initial is I couldn't believe what a loss that you had, because I'm telling you that's my worst fear.
Yes.
And to see you show up sparkling, shining, and there to support me as a friend, and I'm just like, wow, this person is strong and amazing, and you were truly sparkling too.
Oh, God.
And I just was in awe that you had been through that, but also it was just like, wow, what an incredible experience to be loved by somebody like that.
I have to say I'm truly grateful, and it, as upsetting as it was to have such a profound loss, I never took for granted what we had with each other. And because to say that I have found such a profound connection as him at such an early age,
Yeah.
where people are searching for love their whole lives. I got to say I was one of the lucky ones to have found it at the early age of 17 years old.
Yeah. That's what I told you. I'm like, people grind.
Yeah.
They are working, and they're working for like success, happiness, and they think that like, oh, that's going to attract like the person, right?
Exactly.
And it's like, you just had to be alive.
I just had to be alive. I just had to be me. I had to be me. That's all it was. And we found each other. And it wasn't, and the thing is, we weren't searching for it either. It just happened, right? And that's the best way to find love, is when you're not looking for it.
Yes. I hear it happens that way.
It does. And yeah, and I have to say, it was my first time talking about it, was with you. Talking about it again with Chris. I mean, I just felt a sense of trust at your event with you, and a safe space when I met you. So when I met you, I felt safe, and I was able to talk about him once more, and I think that was a pivotal moment to share my story again.
I'm so glad that we're talking about him to share with more people then, because it's a beautiful story. I hope that everyone strives for the kind of love that you and Chris had, and like, no matter who you're with, you know, it's a privilege to go get that glass of water,
right?
To get that coffee.
Exactly.
Whatever it is,
Yeah,
like, what a privilege.
Right, making that breakfast in the morning. Small things, but they matter. They do matter, right?
Yeah, the moments together.
They do. Wow.
Wow, what an amazing story, right? Not only did we hear what it was like to be in a relationship with your soulmate, to have a love like that, but what an inspiration Sophia is, right? She has been through something which is arguably one of the hardest things that somebody can go through. And she is shining, she is sparkling, and she has found a way to love herself again, which means that there is hope for all of us to be able to love ourselves just a little bit. So if you love this, make sure to subscribe, follow along, and if you want even more, head to highvibes.nyc. We are always finding a way to love ourselves.